Okay, folks, welcome back. I did make some tweaks to the UAV drone design, and I actually got it to 5.0 stars, and I got my drone production assembly cost down to 1063. It's still an expensive proposition, but what you got to consider is how much does this R&D cost per unit? So the way it is right now at 30 million bucks per year, it's costing me $181 per unit. That's pretty daggum expensive. On drone marketing, I did some price tweaks and I did some discount tweaks and I did some marketing tweaks to get us to the point that we'd sell enough that would be marginally profitable over here in these tough markets, Asia and Latin America. I think it's going to pay for itself in the future, but I had to be very careful to make sure that we weren't losing any money on the product that we sell, because that's a losing proposition if you've ever seen one. On compensation of facilities, I've got us where we're using most of our factories. We've got a little bit of slack in our factories. Now, you have to go back to some operations management theory, and essentially, if you go back to the goal, it says that you can't run your factory at 100%. I will tell you that there is a theory behind that thought process. It says basically queuing theory. I think it is. I can't remember. I'm sorry that I can't remember. My brain's not working right today. Now I'll remember it and I'll tell you. But there's a theory that says you can't run your factory at 100% because the closer you get to 100%, the more bottlenecks you're going to have in the factory. And you're going to wind up playing whack-a-mole as you try to fix your bottlenecks in the factory. So what I've tried to do is get our factory as close to 100% as possible without going over. And what I'll also tell you is that unfortunately, the people who designed this simulation, in all the times that I've previously used the simulation, they have not done a really great job, in my opinion, of implementing that, meaning that you can actually benefit from running your factory at over 100%. But I'm trying to teach you theoretically sound principles. So we're going to approach 100% capacity, right? 941,900 is our demand. 983,000 is our capacity. Over in our drone factory, 165,700 is our demand. 176,000 is our capacity. So we're close to capacity, but we're not going to run it over. One word about this, because we're running the differentiation strategy, the resources that we possess dictate what strategy we can implement. What I want you to know when I say that, what I'm talking about is the fact that if we're going to run a differentiation strategy, we expect to have larger margins and we expect to have lower volumes. When we have lower volumes, we need a smaller factory. So what I want you to do if you're running a differentiation strategy is to keep your factory small. That's completely opposite than what you'd do if you're running a cost leadership strategy. You want your factory to be big. Having a small factory means that you can pivot, you can be agile, right? It also means that you can control demand a little bit. If you get a product that's really desirable, if you get the right mix of ingredients and make your product so desirable that people really truly are willing to pay a big premium for your product, you can put your price higher, even higher than is expected, and get a really premium price for that product. So you're making much higher than expected margins, and you're controlling demand by increasing your price. So you can reduce your inputs and reduce your spend on your UAV marketing and your drone marketing such that you keep your factory small. It gives you the agility that you need so that you can pivot. Okay. So the final screen, well, I guess, yeah, I covered corporate citizenship in the first video. The final screen that I want to cover is finance and cash flow screen. So many of the same things that I told you, well, all of the same things that I told you about on on the cost leadership strategy also apply when you're running a differentiation strategy. Your capital structure really needs to concentrate on using other people's money. And what I mean by that is no matter what strategy you're running, it never really makes sense for you to sell stock because your investors expect 17.5% return on their investment. while your bank on a 10-year loan only expects 6.5% return on their loan to you. So again, you really want to pay off those high interest loans that you have, even though it means you're going to have to borrow some money to do it. You're borrowing money at a lower rate. I want my company to be the investment of choice, and I'm going to pay a little higher dividend when I'm running a differentiation strategy than I would pay if I was running a cost leadership strategy. Again, it's about setting the expectation that my company is the company of choice. I'm still going to repurchase the 200,000 shares of stock at $12.12 per share. I'm hoping my stock price will go up even more. That gives me about $140 million cash shortfall that requires a big overdraft loan. Okay. Again, let's look at the reasons that we're borrowing 140 million plus. We're paying off $80 million in debt. Okay. We're investing $4,250,000 in workstations. We're investing $61 million in robotics and $5.5 million in facilities improvements. So all of those things that we're doing here, including paying off our 10-year loans, all of those things that we're doing are long-term commitments, right? So we want to make the life of our loan life match the life of what we're using it for. So we're going to do a 10-year loan, and I'm going to start with a $150 million loan. Okay, that's going to cover my cash shortfall. It gives me an ending balance of $10,279,000. It gives me a B plus credit rating, which is exactly what my investors expect, right? And it gives me an image rating of 77. Okay, so my earnings per share is higher than investors' expectations. My return on equity is higher than investors' expectations. I'm doing the same thing on capital structure, but I'm not getting the same benefit. So you may ask yourself, why is it that I'm not getting the same $3 per share in earnings? Remember, with the cost leadership strategy, I'm making immediate cuts to my cost to get my product down as low as possible. With the differentiation strategy, I'm seeking to have first mover advantage in the amount of money that I'm putting into research and development. Okay. So I'm going to put more money into research and development in an effort of hopefully getting my costs down in the future. I've optimized that research and development such that if I put 5 million more in research and development, I don't get any additional PQ improvement. If I put 40 million, I don't get any additional PQ improvement. I have to go all the way to 45 million. So I'm going to stay at 30. But remember, if I drop that to 27 million, my PQ rating drops. So I'm going to optimize the amount of my investment into research and development. I need to do the same thing over here in the drone factory. Even though I'm running a differentiation strategy, because I put so much money before into research and development on my camera, right? I put 45 million into research and development all years on my camera. I could actually do zero investment, and that really does help my earnings per share. But that's really inconsistent with what my strategy is. What I'd like to do is let's just dial that down just a little bit to 16 million and put research and development at 30 million. That keeps my cumulative R&D on both my product lines about the same amount. It lowers my cost on my camera, makes me more profitable, right? On camera marketing, I'm making a pretty decent margin on drone marketing. I've actually, by lowering the cost of my camera, I've improved my operating profit margin on my drones. I've made my factories as efficient as possible. I want to optimize as much of my factory as I possibly can. I've put money into corporate citizenship. All of those things are consistent with being the company of choice. I'm paying a really great dividend, which, by the way, I now need to increase. I'm going to put that at, oh, let's do a 30% dividend. So that's going to be about 80 cents per share. Okay. And when I do that, I can actually scale back the amount of my loan, the money that I need to borrow. Okay. I want to scale that back all the way back to $141 million. My projected cash balance at the end of the year is about 11 million. Okay. So now you see all of the things that are involved in doing a differentiation strategy. Some of it's the same as the cost leadership strategy, like your capital structure, your finance and cash flow decisions are going to be mostly the same, but you do want to pay a little higher dividend if you're on the differentiation strategy. Again, it's just about being the company of choice. That's you want to be highly desirable. On compensation and facilities, you want to pay a little bit more to your workers. You want to invest a little bit more in your workers because you want to be the company of choice for your workers. Okay. So I hope this helps. That wraps up all of the videos for the differentiation strategy, and let me know if they're helpful for you. Okay. Thank you so much.